If you're thinking about being a beekeeper, you're probably wondering what it costs. Late last year, when I started my beekeeping journey, I had zero clue what it would take in terms of money and time. Now, over a full year later, and I'm ready to share with you my first year costs in full detail. My first year as a beekeeper, I've committed to keeping 2 hives, which is recommended by a lot of beekeepers, so you can observe the differences between the 2 hives and you'll learn much faster. Throughout this video, the costs are focused on these 2 hives. I like to organize things, so I've broken these costs into 5 categories: education, equipment, bees, maintenance, and growth. For all of these categories, I'll tell you what I spent the money on, how much it costs, and how you could save a little money if you were on a budget. Education is not optional, but the costs are. There are many formal classes out there that are focused on new beekeepers provided by local apiaries. I had a lot of options in my area, and I found one that was focused on hands-on learning after some brief in-class instruction. The class was about 5 hours long, and we spent most of that time in the apiary in borrowed suits handling bees. The total cost for the class was $100, but I learned a lot. The price range for similar classes is between $100 to $175, but I wouldn't spend more than $200 unless the class was much longer. I highly recommend taking a class if it fits within your budget, but make sure that they focus on hands-on instruction. The rest of my education was twofold: lots of time on YouTube and in various beekeeping groups for beginners. Both are necessary as they serve different purposes, and luckily, both are free. If you don't have the budget for a formal beekeeping class, you can definitely get by on YouTube and Facebook groups. Perhaps the most effective way of learning is finding yourself a beekeeping friend or mentor. I haven't found anyone near Faewood Acres yet, as I'm new to the area and I don't live on the property yet. But having someone answer questions about your hive while looking at your hive sounds immensely valuable. Equipment startup costs for beekeeping can be steep. You'll need some hives for the bees to have a home, some tools to tend and maintain the bees, and some safety equipment. I purchased almost all the equipment from the same people that I took the class from. I believe in supporting small local businesses, and I didn't mind paying a little bit extra. That said, I am also a little bit frugal, so I won't be buying everything from them in the future, or I'll go broke. I purchased 2 hive kits, which included the bottom board, entrance reducer, deep box, medium box, inner cover, telescoping outer cover, and separately I purchased the shallow box feeder. If you include all of the frames, it was $335 per kit, which is $670 for both. You'll need some tools to work with the bees. I got myself a standard smoker, some hamster bedding to burn, a shaker tester to test for varroa mites, and a standard hive tool. None of these tools are optional, and you'd regret skipping them. But luckily, they're inexpensive too. I purchased a multi-layered and breathable full suit and some thick leather gloves. It's pretty obvious from my earliest videos, but I was terrified of getting stung by a bee, so I spent a little bit extra to try to reduce the chances. I also bought some Benadryl and an EpiPen just in case, and I bring it with me to the property every time. Altogether, I spent just under $900 for all of the equipment, the 2 hive boxes, and the medicine. But that doesn't even include the bees yet. Undoubtedly, I spent more than I could have. Comparing these 2 hives with the ones I purchased recently for next year's bees, I saved about 40% by buying from an online reputable company and purchasing unassembled hive kits and putting it together myself. I have a detailed video on assembling hive kits if you want to see how that works. You can save money by purchasing unassembled hive kits and putting it together yourself, or you can save even more money by making your own hives. There are many free plans out there on Facebook groups and Reddit and other websites that give you exact dimensions on how to make a hive. I didn't purchase a low-end suit because of my fear and the supposed breathability of my suit, which is great in summer. You can save a lot of money by purchasing a standard suit online, but be aware of the very low quality suits that are out there. You might save a ton of money, but if it doesn't do the job that you bought it for, you've wasted your money. Finally, we get to the actual bees. This was where I was most clueless. I could probably guess what a little tool costs, but even a bee suit, maybe, but I wasn't ready for what bees cost. From the same place that I took the class and purchased the equipment, I bought 2 nukes. Each nuke had 5 almost full frames of bees, brood, honey, and a queen. Each one was $240, so $480 for both. That seemed kind of high to me. If I had to guess, I would have guessed probably under $100 each. But I guess I was pretty clueless, wasn't I? I also purchased 2 mesh nets off Amazon for $16. These mesh nets go around the nuke to keep the bees in the nukes where they belong when you're driving them in the car for over an hour. I could probably quantify my fear of bees in a spreadsheet. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, so I was happy to be walked through the process. I have since learned that an alternative to a nuke is a package. A package does not contain any frames or brood or honey. That sounds a lot harder to me as a beginner, but it is a way to save about $100 per hive. If you have a beekeeper friend, they can help you make a split or build a hive trap, effectively making your bee costs $0. Well, you should buy them a drink at least, so $6, but that's still pretty awesome. There are some things that I've had to purchase throughout the season to maintain the bees, and these are ongoing costs, not one-time purchases. First, you'll need something to put in your smoker. I purchased hamster bedding to put in my smoker. This was recommended by other Texas beekeepers as being cheap, consistently lighting, and readily available. Your bees will need to be fed sugar water when you first install them, and then again during the dearth, the period when nectar isn't readily available to your bees. I estimate I fed my bees 10 times this year and used a 10-pound bag of sugar each time. At $8 per bag, that's $80 spent on sugar alone this year for 2 hives. As you'll learn, there are a few pests for bees, but none are worse than the varroa mite. To fight them, you'll need your handy little tester and some method of treatment. I'm not going to recommend a specific treatment because that's beyond my expertise at this point, but at the advice of others, I've used Apivar strips. I only purchased Apivar once I tested for mites and it was above the threshold indicating treatment is necessary. I wasn't prepared for this cost either, a whopping $47 for a 12-pack of strips. I only used 4 strips, but they were also expiring this year, so I may not be able to use the rest. In most parts of the world, there is likely something on your property or nearby that you can use for your smoker. I know a lot of people use fallen pine needles or bark, which makes feeding your smoker free. Honestly, I probably haven't fed my bees as much as I should have, so my sugar costs might actually be a little bit low. Still, find yourself a sugar supplier that sells in bulk bags to save some money. Also, don't forget to check with your beekeepers in your area to see what the local feeding schedule is. Depending on your climate, you might be spending more during the cold, long winter. While some beekeepers advocate for treatment-free beekeeping, the vast majority say it's important to treat for mites. Not only does this save your hive, but mites can be transmitted to other hives, so you're saving nearby beekeepers' hives as well. I personally won't skip on treatment, so this is an unavoidable cost. If you plan to grow your apiary beyond 2 hives, you'll have additional costs. I haven't grown yet, but I have anticipated my growth for next year as I expand to 4 hives. You'll need a full hive kit for the new bees, and you'll also need new boxes for the existing hives as they expand and provide you with honey. The full hive kits are about $210, and the new medium super is about $55 each. Speaking of honey, by your second year, you'll be ready to extract some of the honey your little ladies have provided. You'll either want to buy yourself an extractor, which starts at $200 for the smallest ones, or find a facility or a group that allows rentals. Contact your local Beekeepers Association to see what's available. Sometimes they'll have something for free, or at least know what resources are out there. Queen bees last about 2 to 3 years. If you leave nature alone and the queen dies, the hive should replace her for free. But as the queen approaches the end of her life, she will not be as effective and will lay fewer eggs, so many beekeepers replace her before that happens. Regardless, expect to spend some money on replacement queens, which can run $50 to $75. More hives means you need more bees. You can purchase a nuke or a package, but if you already have bees and you acquire a little bit of knowledge, it's way more economical to make another hive with what's called a walk-away split, which is making 2 hives from 1. You can also capture wild bees by using a bee trap made from a nuke box you received when you first got your bees. I love freebies! I may have intentionally or accidentally excluded some costs. For example, I'm in central Texas and I don't have to winterize my hives or protect them from high winds or bears. So if applicable to your area, you should add these to your startup costs so that you don't lose your hives to the elements or animals. If you have extra wiggle room in your budget, I'd say spend it on a good quality suit and get yourself a full suit too, not just the hood. If you're in the hot south, you'll thank yourself later for spending extra on a breathable suit when it's 100+ degrees out in the middle of August and you're working in the full hot sun. For the sake of safety, please don't skip on the EpiPen if you can get it cheaply through insurance. You may have been stung before, but you can develop an allergy, or someone may be visiting that has an unexpected allergy. This is one of those things that's better to have and not need. This may seem like a lot of information all at once, and the cost might seem a little bit high, but I encourage you to give it a try. Don't look for reasons not to do beekeeping. Instead, try to find ways to do beekeeping within your budget. It may take a little bit more time, but I know you can make it work. I have learned a lot in my first year of beekeeping, and I wanted to share it all back with potential new beekeepers out there. I hope you really found this valuable. I wish you the best of luck on your beekeeping journey, and I'll see you next time on Faewood Acres.